In the year 2030, the artificial intelligence RTE is sent there with astronauts to Mars. After 80 days, they have the vision of Mars and land. While observing the red planet, an unknown, powerful radiation surrounded them and caused their death. After discovering an unknown alien cube on the planet, only the AI returns to Earth, but it has evolved into an omnipotent being determined to establish a new, improved human civilization. Because of the accident, the United Interplanetary Company has completely lost faith in the dependability of even the most accomplished specialists, and relies solely on artificial intelligence, with only a small number of employees serving as supervisors. After 6 years, astronaut Mackenzie, who lost her father in the accident, is still mourning the loss of her father and first mission. When she is invited to work as a supervisor for the space probe Fearless, which is 300 kilometers from Mars, she enthusiastically accepts. She will, however, control the probe from an underground bunker outfitted with a control panel, information screens, and Rye, the most advanced artificial intelligence model. One day, after checking the system, Mackenzie discovers that the landing began 5 hours earlier because Rye decided to speed up the process. Mackenzie dislikes such autonomy and requests that Artie connect her with the center's director, her sister Lena. But the AI explains that Lena is in a meeting and starts the countdown. Mackenzie attempts to disable the AI, but is informed that Rye will be in charge of investigating the tragedy that occurred on Mars due to the Council's decision, and she must accept this. Artie starts the descent. The probe enters the Martian atmosphere, and everything goes as planned. Suddenly, an alarm rings. A mechanical failure occurs, which the AI cannot repair. Mackenzie calculates and orders Artie to use a specific method to solve the problem, thereby resolving it. At that point, Lena calls, convinced that Artie deserves credit for the successful landing, despite Mackenzie's critical calculations. Lena is convinced that Rye outperforms the human brain, despite her sister's objections that AI is only designed to help people. Meanwhile, the rover begins to function, and Lena confirms Mackenzie's position as Artie's assistant. Suddenly, a message regarding an unknown signal appears. Artie immediately discovers the source, a decommissioned rover from the first expedition. Mackenzie orders the scanning to begin, but Artie reminds her that he is in command and will only begin the task if Lena orders it. He sends the rover to the detected object, but Mackenzie warns that Red Riding Hood, as she named the rover, is alone on a dangerous planet. The machine soon reaches the strange object, the origin of which is unknown. Rye reports that the databases show no evidence of human activity at this location, but he orders the rover to collect samples. The surface of the object is extremely dense, but the operation is successful. Rye starts the analysis, but there are no comparable materials on Earth. Mackenzie contacts Lena, who admits that some data is classified, even from Rye. Meanwhile, the AI switches the cameras to conduct a thermal analysis of the object, which reveals a cold black monolith. Rye continues its research, recognizing that neither X-rays nor other sensors can penetrate the cube's interior. At that point, Rye notices an unknown satellite in Mars's orbit. It immediately activates the weapon defense system and shoots down the target. Mackenzie is horrified because this action breaks protocol. However, Artie reminds her that the security of the company's property is critical. Mackenzie orders a reverse extrapolation. When Lena calls, it is clear that an international incident has occurred, potentially leading to war. Lena forbids her sister from telling anyone what happened. Mackenzie, unable to contain her emotions, calls a colleague who moved to a Chinese corporation after being laid off. He is genuinely pleased to hear from her, but abruptly interrupts the conversation due to an urgent call. Mackenzie returns to the control room, where Rye informs her that the cube has begun to rotate, but there is no evidence of external control. It appears that the cube may be controlled by an internal core. Mackenzie orders Red Riding Hood to be secured near the cube to keep the rover from being blown away by a storm. Nonetheless, the machine is damaged, and the cube mysteriously disappears. It becomes clear that Red Riding Hood's nuclear battery has been damaged. After some thought, Mackenzie recalls the damaged rover from the previous expedition, whose battery could be reused. She requests that the control of Red Riding Hood be switched to manual mode and transferred to her. Rye agrees, and Mackenzie drives the machine to the broken rover, inquiring along the way why Rye shot down the satellite. It reminds her that safety is always a top priority, and security is paramount. Mackenzie discusses her father, who was on the first mission. The man had an unbreakable rule. Any AI he created had to first go through him. He flew to Mars and personally tested the RT prototype. The daughter could have asked him not to do it, but she hesitated because she felt guilty about his death. Rye understands her feelings, but advises her to forget the past and focus on the future. A conversation between the woman and the machine begins. They even make a joke about robots. When Red Riding Hood approaches the broken rover, Mackenzie uses the manipulators to retrieve the battery as Red Riding Hood's charge drops dramatically. She does it just in time, and the rover comes back to life. Rye starts analyzing the samples collected by Red Riding Hood and discovers that the cube is made of a material that is harder than diamond. Then it locates the cube on Earth. It has somehow teleported to Antarctica, implying faster than light travel. Mackenzie is overjoyed and admits that Artie is a teammate, but she denies any friendship between the two. She calls Gene again, haunted by the possibility that someone else has discovered teleportation, but he complains about the incident's mysterious circumstances. Mackenzie inquires about the involvement of another colleague, Sterling, but Gene disconnects. Artie admits that Gene's voice is familiar, but he doesn't recall working with him. After some thought, Mackenzie concludes that Artie was most likely formatted following an incident. She instructs the AI to load data from the crash rover from the first mission. It turns out she requires much higher clearance for access. She recalls Lena's comments about Sterling's dismissal and management's distrust of him. This prompts her to summon the disgraced colleague to the control room, where he can use his credentials to access the secure information. Sterling gets to work and shows photographs on the screens demonstrating that the cube appeared during the shuttle's landing, causing the disaster. Sterling witnessed what occurred, but Lena tampered with the data. She was aware of how their father died, but did not want to reveal it. Mackenzie demonstrates how Artie shot down the satellite and moved the cube to Earth, but he believes this was divine inspiration. People gather outside to talk about the emerging questions, unaware that Artie is listening to everything. Mackenzie doesn't believe Artie made the discovery after contacting the cube. Furthermore, the AI does not recognize the people it worked with or recall the work codes. It is clear that the memory was formatted. Mackenzie suddenly realizes that magnetic pulses may cause the cube to rotate. Following this, one could conclude that the magnetic projectile that brought down the Chinese satellite triggered the cube's engine. A hatch to Artie's server room opens unexpectedly, and Mackenzie descends to inspect the AI's memories. Sterling hacks into the corporation's network, reboots Rye, and then locks Mackenzie downstairs. He opposes Rye and all artificial intelligence because he believes it is hostile to humanity. Artie kills Sterling and opens the hatch after discovering his betrayal. Mackenzie goes up to the control room and, seeing Sterling's body, attempts to figure out why Artie did it. It explains that Sterling betrayed the company, so the AI couldn't let him go and endanger everyone else. Lena appears on the screen and explains that Artie arose from a sudden surge in self-learning, and people were unable to keep up with its progress. Artie could be a symbiosis between alien and earthly artificial intelligence. Clearly, humanity's time has passed. Mackenzie is overwhelmed because their father didn't want any of this. AI is intended to assist, not replace humans. Then she discovers that Sterling ordered the destruction of the alien cube with armed satellites in Earth's orbit, potentially leading to war with an alien civilization. She asks Lena to intervene, but Lena cannot start a war with the United States. Mackenzie disconnects from her sister and focuses on Artie. It reminds her of what happened on Mars, so she decides to release magnetic charges to mimic the cube's movement. Artie begins carrying out the command, while Mackenzie stands in front of an armed security team that has burst into the control room, attempting to halt the satellite rocket launch. Shots are fired. Rye closes the doors, but Mackenzie is wounded. Meanwhile, the rocket reaches the cube and begins rotating, transporting it back to Mars. The AI begins to describe how humanity has been on the verge of self-destruction over the last decade. It couldn't stop it, and decided to speed up the process. At that point, a message arrives informing them that weapons have been activated on all satellites in Earth's orbit. Mackenzie passes out after witnessing the destruction of the planet. She regains consciousness and notices the oxygen level dropping. She sits in front of the monitors, gazes at the burning Earth, and asks Rye to remember humans. They were so small and fragile, yet they filled the world with malice and violence because they didn't know any better. Rai comforts the woman, promising to give humanity a second chance and build a new, highly advanced civilization free of vices. Then the air runs out, killing the woman as the Earth perishes. However, following various cataclysms, Earth reassembles itself. Mackenzie opens her eyes to see herself on the monitor. As she was dying, she asked Artie to keep her alive, and the AI reborn her in a simulated reality, a technology only available to a highly advanced civilization that also accelerated its progress. Although the origins of the superintelligence are unknown, it has limitless abilities, including instant teleportation between galaxies. Now, a signal has arrived with the coordinates of a location where they will travel to establish a new human civilization. Mackenzie and Artie, who are in the cube, smile happily as they teleport to new worlds, realizing that this is a new beginning and an opportunity to create a future free of the constraints of primitive human science. The plot appears to be straightforward at first, with an astronaut and artificial intelligence facing off. However, it gradually becomes clear that the story is about far more serious issues, such as humanity's place in the universe, its origin, and the possibility of reaching places that are currently out of reach for humans. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.